एक minute. I will. So I'm Gautam Lad, Chairman of Members in Industry Committee. I welcome you everyone on behalf of WIRC of ICI today on our forum, CFO Forum, which is on business skills, CFO skills on sale of business side. We have our honorable faculty today, MS Jacob sir, to guide us through what skill set is required. So before starting the session, let us all put our hand on heart for ICI motto. Mishra ji.
येष सुप्तेषु जागृति येष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामंशो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तदेव शुक्रब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्द्वैता 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 एतद्द्वैता.
Thank you. Since India is becoming last year India clocked $112 billion, in M&A. So India is becoming a market. This year it is projected to $200 billion economy market for merger and acquisition. It is imperative that we discuss that what type of skill set is required on business sales side from a CFO, and the role of CFO is becoming imperative day by day. So this is the reason we thought, let us have a roundtable discussion, virtual discussion on this idea, and we have MS Jacob for to guide us through and to have a deliberation on it. Before moving to the session, we have our chairman today, so I request our chairman Murtaza Kachwala to please address the participants and for his opening remarks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Gautam. At the outset, let me first thank Mr. Jacob for accepting our invitation and agreeing to share the valuable knowledge on such an unique and interesting subject, actually. And before I go ahead, let me also thank the Chairman of Members in Industry Committee, Gautam Lad, and Vice Chairman of Members in Industry Committee, Pinky Kedia, for actually picking up and setting up such unique programs under the Members in Industry Committee. And to give you a little flavor of the many things which were being planned. So like on this CFO Forum was started last year, where we circulated a Google form and we got entries from 380 participants, and we identified the real CFOs, about 240 of them, and we added them in a WhatsApp group. And these 240 CFOs keep on interacting on a regular basis. They post queries, someone else answers, and it is really working so well. And we are getting input from a lot of other people also, a lot of other CFOs, and we are going to create a group 2 also where we'll add the balance, the CFOs. Like on the 4th Friday of every month, 5:30 to 7, last year we had continuously 4 months certain topics, the new labor code, backward area benefits, then CSR. And now today again we are starting in this new format where Mr. Jacob has agreed to take this unique subject. But as we see, the role of CFO is moving not only from accounting and financial statement, but to a consultant role, to a business role, where they need to know about everything. And hence we request all of you present here on the call today, and everyone on the CFO Forum group also, that please do let us know the subject of your interest, the subject that you want to deliberate on, and so that we can get the best of faculties. And on the 4th Friday, we can do this session where the topic of your interest can be discussed. And today also, Mr. Jacob has kindly agreed to complete his presentation or speech in about 35-40 minutes, and then he will be open to take questions and answer them. So that is how it is. So we want the sessions to happen like that, and we would encourage more and more people to take part in the deliberation and in the discussion. And today also we got more than 350 registrations. Although at this point in time we got about 65-70, I'm sure people will join in. So really grateful to all of you. I want to only touch upon one more thing, that from next month we are also starting the CEO Speak, which will happen again on a Saturday morning 10 to 11. There were some this thing where people were saying that we should move this CFO forum to a Saturday evening. We are happy to take that input, provided everyone agrees, because some people, the house is divided. Some say Friday, some say Saturday. So Pinky and Gautam will again get that input from all of you, and then we can move that. And every month we also want to take up one more industry, 1 month maybe real estate construction, 1 month pharma, banking, etc., and do a unique industry specific program where we want to do direct tax, indirect tax, and the risk and control, and a panel discussion and various aspects of it. So please keep on giving us input on a regular basis. With that, let me hand it over back to Gautam. Gautam, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your opening remarks. Now, without taking much of the time, I quickly move to CA Pinky Kedia to introduce our today's speaker. Pinky, madam.
गौतम सर, आपके आजू बाजू में 2 जगह लॉगिन किए गए सर, एक बार देख लीजिए।
Thank you, Gautam, to give me a pleasant task to introduce today's speaker, CAMS Jacob sir. Thank you to each and everyone who has participated in the and joined the presentation today, because it's a CFO forum, so we need all should interact with each other and share their knowledge on the topics. But key speaker, we can say the keynote speaker is CA MS Jacob. So MS Jacob sir has been in the full-time director and CFO of Colgate Palmolive India Limited since October 2016. Jacob sir joined Colgate Palmolive India in 1995 in the continuous improvement group and progressed to the position of budget manager. In 2003, Jacob sir moved to Colgate Palmolive Thailand as associate finance director, where he supported many regional and local supply chain initiatives, including the divestiture of the detergent business in Southeast Asia. In 2006, he moved to Colgate Palmolive Vietnam as the finance director, leading the finance team through several challenges and initiatives, including the setup of a new global toothbrush facility. In 2009, he moved on as the finance controller for the Asia division, where he led several initiatives to drive profitable growth. His immediate prior assignment was as finance director of Colgate Palmolive Malaysia Group, where he leads several key initiatives, including the local execution of the Global Growth and Efficiency Program, transition to the goods and services tax regime, as well as measures to manage risk posed by the step currency depreciations. So, and in the education front side, Mr. Jacob is a commerce graduate from Bombay University and a chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. So, sir, I think we have international speaker with us because I can see that you had worked in Malaysia, Vietnam, and many foreign countries as well. So it's our privilege that today we are here. You are sharing knowledge with us, your experience with us. So without wasting the time, I don't want to come between the participant and our speaker. So please, sir, now dais is your, and we welcome you and we thank you to accept our invitation and and you are going to share our knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Pinky, and thank you, Murtuza, Gautam, Shweta, for the opportunity to present to this audience. So I have a few prepared slides, which I'll go through. And then, I don't think it should be more than 30 minutes. And from there, we can have a chat. Now, I'm not sure, the topic is what you're looking for. What I'm going to talk about is how business works, how the finance organization works with the business side on delivering the company's objectives. So I'm now going to talk about M&A specifically, but it'll be more like, the commercial organization, how finance professionals need to step up given all the changes that are happening, and how do we add value to the organization and move away from, the conventional roles. Yeah. So with that, Pinky, I'll share my screen and start. Okay. Thank you. So, can you see my slide? Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everybody. So, good evening, everybody. Again, welcome to the session. I'm sure it's been a long week for all of you, and you're looking to wind up and get back to a relaxed weekend. Although I know many CAs work 7 days a week, so I don't know which group you belong to. So whichever group it is, I wish you the best for the next couple of days. So I'm going to just present a few slides, and then you can, we can then take it from there. The slides are clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
So, this is about how things are changing in the external environment. I came back in 2016 after 14 years, and some people said, you've come back after Vanvas, Ram's Vanvas was 14 years, right? So I came back after 14 years in 2016. And, before I went, India was progressing, at a reasonable pace. But, the kind of changes we've seen in the last few years has been quite unprecedented, and things have moved so quickly that many of us experienced professionals also, find it, it's breakneck, right? And we wonder what are the things we need to do, what are the right skills, etc. So the business as a whole is seeing a massive change. So on the left side, you have some pictures on digital disruption, and I'll cover a bit more. Sorry. Yeah,
may I request all participants to mute themselves, please?
Yeah, so what Reliance Jio and cheap data made the impact it had, right? So virtually everybody in the country has access to data, and that kind of revolutionized a lot of it. We never thought it will affect companies like us as significantly as it did. Everybody can go on the phones, order stuff, track deliveries, etc. And on the right side, you can see what we call the retail environment. Earlier, we had the kiranas, the wholesale, the medical store. But then you have new formats like cash and carry, companies like Metro, Walmart, cash and carry. EB2B, which is business to business. You have the Udaan, the Elastic Run, etc. Then D2C and e-com platforms, which are mainly Amazon, Big Basket, Flipkart, etc. So quite dramatic changes in the external environment. And so we're also seeing, quite dramatic change. I mean, the kind of changes we are seeing in the spaces FMCGs operate, especially. So on the left side, we've called out all those new brands, the Wows, the Patanjalis, Bombay Shaving. Many of them digital first brands because, traditionally we believed mass media, that is television and national media, and mass distribution, both were essential to develop a national brand. But, the new insurgent brands, as we call them, have proved that you don't need to have mass media. It could be more targeted digital media through YouTube, etc., or on platforms like Amazon, you can grow brands pretty quickly outside of the conventional model. So on the right side, we've also shown how categories have evolved. Earlier it used to be tooth powder, toothpaste, but now we have mouth sprays, we have chewing gums, we have tablets. So this space is also moving very fast. And one of the key reasons is the way startups have blossomed in India over the last few years. Access to funding and some of the best brains in the business is creating a line of products which we never thought would be possible in India. What we also seen is shift in consumer preferences. So some of it was accelerated by COVID. So health and wellness is a key priority. People are making decisions based on what's good for their health. That they should not fall sick, and they should be healthy. Other factors are rise of convenience. E-com is a good example where you, especially if you're staying in the metros or even the smaller towns, you can call, you can place orders on the WhatsApp, on the platform, sorry, and then you get it delivered. Make in India, we know Atmanirbhar is a new thing which is created. A lot of investment in India, and a lot of companies are moving production to India. And then we find there are brands which are specifically addressing people's requirements around sustainability and environment, ESG, what we call. Those are getting more and more critical. So there's a lot of changes that are happening in the space. So this slide shows the digital footprint in India. It's the largest internet market, second largest after China. 50% internet penetration, almost 70 crore internet users, 120 crore subscriptions. A lot of people have double subscriptions, as we know. Mobile internet, 45 crore. And this is quite staggering, right? These numbers, we would never have thought 10 years back, we would be in this space where a majority of our population has access to data and digital channels. And you will find this charts interesting. The age group, if you see 16 to 24, 25 to 34 is almost 70% of it. And that's the bulk of a demography, right? So if you see 44 and below, virtually, everybody would now be digitally savvy. Urban, rural. So this is one thing that surprises us also as a company, that, the access of rural to digital spaces and how they've been very active and driving change. And this is one area we believe will continue to surprise us. Languages, Hindi and English are still the main languages, but the other languages are catching up fast, and content in many Indian languages is a priority for many companies now. Clearly, the old thinking that only that English is the right medium is kind of not valid anymore. There is, Hindi is huge now, and the other regional languages are catching up also very quickly. So what are the implications for the organizations, And this is applicable for the organization as a whole, but we can say it's applicable for all of us as finance professionals also. So how do we create an agile and entrepreneurial organization? So when I left in 2003, when I left India to move to Thailand, things used to happen once in 3-4 years, something of note, something important would happen. But now, even a week is a long time for even for companies like us. The rate at which things are changing is so dramatic, and so the entire team and finance is definitely in the center of it. The finance side, especially who works on the business side, will need to make sure that we are agile, we are in touch with the trends that are happening outside, and we understand all these stuff. It's not enough to be conversant with accounting standards and taxes and all. because even for you to, or for us to practice these areas if efficiently also, we need to understand how businesses are changing, because finally accounting is reflecting a lot of the stuff that's happening on the business side, right? So it's a imperative. Leveraging analytics and digital. So I showed you some charts on data, how literate India is now as a country in terms of access and use of data and mobile platforms. So that also means that there's a lot of data out there, because when you're on the electronic platforms, you leave what's called digital platforms, digital footprints. And how do we use that to drive business efficiencies? That's something that many of us finance professionals would be in the center of. Increase focused on innovation. So, and this applies for finance professional also. And I will show you some examples how we should add value to the broader organization. So what does this mean for finance folks? So we need to move from being a finance expert to a business owner mindset. The lines are blurring quite fast. Many companies now don't even look for pure finance people. They want finance people with good understanding of the sales side, or a good understanding of the marketing side, or supply chain. The era of looking for pure finance experts, people who are not interested in anything else in the organization but the finance piece, that's kind of dwindling. And big corporations are moving to facilitate this transition, and we ourselves need to be a catalyst in this transformation. And what's happening also as a result is that we're seeing finance experts move on to manage businesses, because we are just not finance professionals anymore. We are business people, right? And so most chartered accountants, I find, are very smart in understanding business and how to run it. But sometimes we tend to be bogged down on the finance side. We just get absorbed in what happens in finance. But we're finding many finance people moving on to the business side and running businesses. And we also, in this company, in Colgate, we have examples of people who've moved, who are heading operations also in overseas countries. So what are the building blocks of a business owner mindset? So these are some of the key skills that we look for when we interact with finance professionals within the company. And I think this is relevant to most modern organization. So the first one is business commercial acumen. And I mentioned, I find CAs are among the most brightest people. I've interacted with a lot of people around the world, and I would say, we are next to none in terms of our understanding of commercial acumen, or ability to join the dots, how the linkages happen, when sales does something, or marketing, how does it impact P&L, supply chain, logistics, HR. We are able to see the holistic perspective. And one thing we need to do better is how do we convert that into meaningful communication within the organization, because quite often we find we don't talk a lot, right? In business meeting, cross-functional meetings, we are, we talk much less than some of the others who know less but speak more, right? Some of the other functions. So that's something, we need to develop, hone, and know how to use that to make an influence. The other thing is growth mindset. And this is very relevant in a country like India, where, it's one of the fastest growing economies in the world. We will be top 5 economy in the world very soon. And we should look at how do we develop a growth mindset. How do we drive top line, for example? So, there are countries in the world where there's no population growth, is declining, GDPs are stagnant, and so there isn't a lot of opportunity to grow top line. India is one of those few countries where the top line opportunity is massive, right? And so it's not just about profits. We need to balance between short term and long term, and the opportunity that India presents, we should be looking to capitalize it for the organization. Strategic thinking, linking numbers to the big picture. And I was just mentioning that how things are changing so dramatically in India. Every new week, it looks like, a few years have passed, and we need to think, model, foresee how things would be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and get the organization ready. So it could be the people, it could be the manufacturing footprint, it could be the warehousing footprint. How does all those things impact the company? We need to go through those modeling and present our perspective to the management, and so that we are competitive, the organization that you work for, right? The last piece is the importance of analytics, and I've called it RGM. That's what we call it here. It's called revenue growth management. It's about using tools and analytics to drive top line growth. So what we call the commercial finance organization is typically the FP&A groups and the sales finance group. So these are two key pieces of the commercial finance group in Colgate, and this is the format that I would believe most big FMCGs follow. So we need to understand on the sales side, how do things work on the selling side for the company? So we call it go to markets. How do we get the products to the trade from where the consumers pick it up? And traditionally, it used to be company, which is, say, in our case, Colgate, would sell it to distributors, and we have about 2,000 distributors. So we sell it to them. They would sell it to wholesalers, and then wholesalers to the retailers, who are the kiranas and all that. And then there's a model of company selling to distributors, and we go directly from the distributors to the retailers. Now, there are more new formats that have emerged in the last decade or so. So there is this modern retail formats, the DMarts, the Reliance retails. There are those supermarket chains which are more region specific, like Vishal, etc. So we have those. And then you have cash and carry like Metro and Walmart. EB2C, which is Amazon, Walmart, Amazon, Flipkart, and then you have Big Basket, those kind of platforms. And then B2B, which is like Udaan and Elastic Run, etc. So it's got so complex, and companies are grappling with what's the right way to sell to all these retail channels, and what are the steps that need to take. So each one has its own peculiarities, sensitivities, and and the finance folks need to spend time understanding this, and to make sure we are making the right decision, investment decisions. So this is what we call revenue growth management, and this is peculiar probably for the FMCG industry. But I'm just throwing this in there. It may be relevant to some of you who are attending this call. So these are these are the 5 levers that we use to drive revenue. So how do we increase sales? One is pricing. So pricing is taking the MRP change, and this can be a science, because there's a lot of data out there which we can use to run sensitivity models and figure out what is the price possibility considering inflation, considering other cohort category price movements. So there is a model that can be used to see what is the right level of pricing. Promotion depth, we often find companies spend hundreds of crores on promotional stuff. It could be free products for consumer, for trade. How do we make sure the returns are there, and we are not whatever we do, it is to either build loyalty or to drive sales up. So how do we make sure the promotions are not a waste, it's resulting in the delivery of the objective. So mix is, every company has different products. So in our case, we have the premium end products like O2 Visible Whitening Total, and then we have at the middle rung, say Colgate Dental Cream or Max Fresh, and then Sebaka at the lower end. So how do we keep moving people offer benefits, so they move to the more premium products, and it's a win-win. We get higher sales, but consumers also see benefit in trading up. Pack sizes, so we have very small sizes, or we have big sizes like 250 grams in toothpaste, for example. And how do we keep moving people to upsize and move it to the higher sizes? New products, this is what we call innovation. How do we launch new products to the market, catering to specific consumer needs? I talked about, consumers are looking for a lot of things. A new, more recent change is about, about sustainable products. So, how do we cater to that market? Those are things that, we run models, and what the finance folks do is that run sensitivity models, look at the return on investment, look at top line upside, margin upside, etc. So this is under the growth mindset category. So how do we leverage digital and analytics? For example, in our case, we sell to, as I said, more than 2,000 distributors, and from there it goes into tens of lakhs of stores, and we get a lot of data from them, virtually on a day-to-day basis. How which SKU is being sold by which customer by geography, and so the thing is, how do we develop expertise to understand intricacies at each level? So, for example, we run trade schemes, which trade schemes give us a bigger uplift. And when you run trade schemes, one SKU, I mean, is the stock keeping unit. So, say a Max Fresh 100 gram is one SKU. So, when you run scheme on that, how does it affect the other SKUs, like total 100 grams or whitening 100 gram? And what is the cannibalization with other retail channels like wholesale or modern trade? So what finance professionals do here is, they have the sensitivity model that they will use to see whether as a company we got incremental. Because if you look at just that one SKU, one channel like a wholesaler, you might get an upside, but we need to make sure we capture all the data and do a more holistic analysis. So these are models that we run here, and the output is used to fine tune our strategies going forward. The other thing we encourage all of finance professionals to do is familiarize ourselves with the internal and external data sources. So Nielsen, Kantar, these are organizations that capture a lot of information, like at the stores, how we are doing, how competition is doing, what products are selling, what size is selling, what price it's selling for. Similarly, Kantar is an organization that captures data at a household level. So they have a sample group of households across the country, and they have diaries where they maintain what they bought and where they bought, etc. And they aggregate this, and they will present this data that in this month more people bought this product, and they stopped buying this product, and they bought it at modern trade outlet like a D-Mart, and they didn't buy. They used to buy at a Kirana store. So there's a lot of this data, and which is available for mining, which can be used to run simulation models on projecting sales margin, etc. Advertising. This is one of the most, the changes have been the most dramatic in this area. So, like 10 years back, I know all our spending was on media, on TV media. So, all the TV channels, Stars, Z, etc. But now more than 30% of the category spending of media is on digital, and you can see some of the big platforms there. Familiar with Facebook, Instagram. But also platforms like Amazon, for example. Some of you would have used Amazon or Big Basket Grocers. When in the search, you put in search for something, you might see some other product, and so that's in a way a paid advertising. And these are new ways of advertising, or you could see promotional offers there. Similarly, in Google, when you search, you would see boxes which say sponsored content, and those are all paid by companies. And so the number of avenues for advertising is opened up so dramatically in India over the last 10 years that the spending has gone up, and it's still evolving. What's the right way to assess the effectiveness of this spending? So just to familiarize with some of the digital terms that I used. So impressions, for example, is the number of times the ad is shown. So it could be when you go into Amazon, you see some product that been advertised. That's an impression. A click is when you click on that. Click-through rate is when you click on that, and the ratio of how many times it's shown versus how many times you clicked. Landing page is when you where you land after you click, and then there's a lot of the costs that you can monitor at a very micro level: cost per click, cost per engagement, cost per views. And there are models you can develop which say 1,000 people click, 100 people would view the product, 10 people would further want to inquire, and 5% may those kind of data is available. So to get X number of shoppers, what is that funnel you are looking at? So if you imagine a funnel, right, it's very wide at the top. At the bottom, it's like a small pipe, right? So from the top to the bottom, how does it work? These are some of the terms we are familiarizing our finance professionals through, because everything is about spending money and spending it wisely, right? So we need to understand all this to be able to make the right calculations on return on investment. As I mentioned, YouTube, Google, etc. are they are vying with conventional media for a share of the pie. ROI measurement is quite complex, and so in Colgate, for example, we've got a couple of experts in finance who are very good at looking at how spending happens on e-com, and use that to present data on how what's the return on those spending, and how do we need to move from whether we should spend behind this product or this platform or this time of the day or this time of the week. The amount of data that's available is so humongous that this is a new area. It's a skill we are developing as we speak, and this will continue to be an evolving area for in the near term. There are some very sophisticated tools like market mix modeling and Stackline, which provide very good analytics of how consumer behavior is happening as they get into all these digital platforms. Other areas that we work on the selling side with the marketing and sales side is on identifying margin accretive ideas. So many of our finance team travel to the field, go to the stores, and check how are sales happening, who's buying, how's it transported. Based on that, they sometimes come with cost saving ideas also, whether packaging, can we put more units per case or shipper, whether if we are putting secondary packaging like BOPP tapes and wraps, whether we can optimize that. Transportation, whether it's going back and coming back or something, whether we can optimize that. Similarly, warehouse infrastructure, etc. So, understanding of all the cost drivers is as important, although, the finance person would be on the selling side with marketing or the sales team. But, keeping an eye on costs is as critical for them as it is on doing this analysis in that area. Getting future ready. Under strategic thinking, I mentioned that's one bucket we need to also be cognizant of. Think long term, and while we are masters at the short term thing, we need to make steps towards delivering the strategic plan and vision. What is the company's strategic plan and vision? We need to understand that. Where does the company need to be from 5 years? There would be a plan most companies will have it, they keep updating it. And so we need to really be on top of it. And whatever we do, we need to make sure it's linked to that. Similarly, understanding evolution of channels and channel conflict. So I mentioned till 10 years back, we had just the kiranas, wholesalers, etc. But now there are so many formats that are selling. So we need to understand the impact on the company for going through all these channels. And there could be channel conflicts also. We need to make sure all channels are functioning healthily. And what are the measures that we need to do? Other areas, distributor of the future. So one of the components in the system that's been affected the most with all this is the distributors. So earlier I mentioned we work through 2,000 distributors. So that area is seeing a massive level of competition with through all this e-com, through wholesalers, etc. So how do we make distributors more efficient? Where do they borrow money? How can they borrow money more efficiently? Working capital, how much money have they stuck? Is there a way to take inventory down? Are the salespeople digitally savvy? Do they know how to look at data and make the right calls at the stores? The logistics capabilities, are they modernizing their fleets? There could be leakages because of not being aware of input GST, withholding tax, etc. So how do we make sure distributors are on top of this? How do we make sure they deliver the service that's expected on them? So we need to make sure we're familiarizing ourselves with spending in new channels. So spending means all those schemes that we spend with trade customers and consumers, and make sure we developing the tools that are required to measure the return on investment. Technology is something that we also need to be very close to. All the analytics stuff we have, all the data that's there. There's a lot of work happening in most organizations. How do we ensure we stay close to that? And we need to make sure we are seeking a win-win outcome. It's not about pushing somebody to the margins. It's we win. We take all our partners together with us. So that's the way to do it. So staying close to the commercial organization, I would also say a few things. Be curious. Things are changing quite fast around you. Go to the market, whichever industry you are in, see what's happening there, watch competition, make sure you're there very frequently. Network with sales and marketing colleagues. This is one area we chartered accountants need to do better. The cross-functional linkages with across the organization. Can we plan lunches with our salespeople or marketing while we are in office, or can we shadow them while we are in the market to understand? Because that's the best way to understand what's happening in the market, right? Can we understand their problems and offer solutions? And even look for a short-term stint.
आज वो फंक्शन रिसेप्शन है क्या? किसमें वो मेन?
So in summary,
क्लब में है कि?
So in summer,
hello, can you please
मिश्रा जी उसको अनम्यूट कीजिए ना, नरेश जी को म्यूट कीजिए.
Are you attending?
नरेश जी आपकी आवाज आ रही है, प्लीज म्यूट.
अच्छा, और महेश्वरी जी भी आए हैं बॉम्बे?
नरेश जी प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ.
मिश्रा जी आप कर दो. विनय मिश्रा आप म्यूट कर दो उनको.
हाँ, प्रोग्राम तो है, ठीक है. हाँ, देख लेता हूँ, ऑफिस से आऊंगा.
So in summary, the world outside is changing at an unprecedented pace. Conventional models that we all understood and worked towards are all been upended, changing dramatically. Unlearning legacy mindset. A lot of us think in the same way we thought 20 years back, but unlearning that, learning new approaches is critical. So chartered accountants, as I mentioned, are in a very good position to understand all the changes that's happening and its implication, and be thought leaders. We have a very good chance to be very influential in the way the company is progressing. Cross-functional understanding and expertise needs to be sought. I would suggest, we chase that, tell our bosses, tell HR, I need that experience. It's important for me to work optimally. And the last piece is as functional lines were shift away from pure finance roles will accelerate. I think we are moving away from very pure finance roles. We are seeing 20%, 30% roles are, the selling type of roles, marketing kind of roles. Those are getting embedded in the finance roles, and it's expected people will embrace them and learn those skills also. And that's the way they will be able to add to the organization. So that's all I had. And are you ready? So, for all the changes that are coming. So I'm going to stop sharing and I will open up to the forum for discussion.
Okay. So, sir, we have one question from Virendra, that how you evaluate technology buy from value realization perspective for your organization?
Yeah, so technology has many aspects, right? It could be, a tool that will tell you, where to sell, what money you can make. So, like some of the newer technologies that we are buying, it kind of picks up all the data in the system and crunches models and, does simulation. So that's one way to assess it. The other way is, you can automate a lot of tasks, and you can move people to more productive jobs, and let the more repetitive jobs be given to the technology thing. But we also using it for things like control. So recently we deployed a series of bots on the system which picks up unusual transactions. So it's, for example, your payment to a particular vendor is say 5 lakhs average a month. Suddenly it goes to 50 lakhs, or sales is X level and it goes up quite dramatically. So the system throws out unusual challenges, unusual transactions and trends, and sends it to management saying, this we're seeing unusual movement here, and whether you feel this is okay. So multiple ways. It could be efficiencies, it could be controls, compliance, and governance also. And so that's how one is quantifiable, one is more to avert anything wrong going, which is more difficult to quantify.
Sir, second question is roadmap to become CFO for auditing industry.
Yeah, so I presume this is for the chartered accountants, right? Broadly. One is you have to decide which industry you want to join, right? So if whether it's FMCG, because all industries are different, right? So if you are passionate about FMCG, you need to join an FMCG industry, right? And go and get in. And in Colgate, for example, we recruit people in the audit group first, young chartered accountants, and they come in and then they would work there for 12 to 18 months and then move into the business finance role. So by then they would have traveled the country, looked at the operations, have a good idea of process systems, people. And then once you're thrown into the commercial function, which is a little bit more rigorous and demanding, you are prepared, and most of them do well there. And then decide on developing all the other skills, like as I said, understanding the entire linkages with the organization. So prepare for the next level. Observe what your manager does and try to inculcate those skills. As I said, go to the market, go to the factories, spend time with HR. Spend time understanding all the other functions, because as you go up, right, it's going to be less about finance and how you understand the entire company as a whole, how you join the dots, how you interact and with other people, how you communicate, how you work as a team. This will be very critical skills. And as you go up, it's expected you will be experts at your work while you are, when you come in as a CA. The rest of the skills will need to be picked up at the organization. And also course correct. You might come to an FMCG and after 2 years feel that it's a waste. This industry is not exciting. I want to be in banking, or or I want to be in a startup. So by all means, make those calls. Like I've been in this company for 26 years, and probably it's a bit outdated to work in one company for so long. But I would encourage people to take risks the initial few years, but not every 3 months. Make sure you're learning enough, a couple of years. And if you think you're not happy, you're not learning, move. But make sure you're learning, because the initial years, that's the critical piece. And so that when you're 15 years, 10 years experience, you can leverage it to move quickly. So the learning piece is very critical. Don't bother too much about 10% salary difference, 20% in the initial years. In the long run, it won't matter. What will matter is how much you've learned in the initial years. So that's what I would say. Continuously learn, look for opportunities, stay tuned to all the changes happening outside, and watch people who were senior and who are going up the rungs.
Pramodji, I think you want to say something now. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, so this is Pramod Khandilwal. Sir, I would like to ask you that being a finance guy, we usually see the numbers part. But a person who is operationally involved in the business, they become CEOs. So how to go about from numbers to an operational level? So yeah, sir.
You finished? Yeah. So I gave you an example of, we had a CA in finance here who said, I want to be, I think I have entrepreneurial skills and I could do more things. So we gave him a stint in marketing for a couple of years, and then he came back, and now he heads the Colgate business in another country outside India. So we have a few cases like that. CAs going on to head companies. So but you learn to do that first 10 years or so in finance. Be really on top of the finance piece, and then most progressive organization will give you an opportunity to work. So in this case, we put him for 6 months, and so it was very clear that if he doesn't find it interesting, or if the marketing organization finds he's not adding value, he will come back to finance. So there was a safety net provided for him to go and do, give 100%. So it clicked. So he worked, he did well there, and from there he picked up. So there are opportunities available like that, and that's where the interaction with the functional head and HR is important. I've seen in most progressive organizations, these opportunities are available. So, I would say that's the way to go.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Amit, you want to ask something? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Jacob, it's a very different question, but concerning Colgate. Okay, can you describe if you had a Nirma moment? You know what I'm talking about, Nirma with Unilever, because I'm from that generation where we saw this happening. With Karsan by taking on the giant. Have you had any such moment, and how did you tackle it? I believe, Bubble was a sort of moment for you, something like that in Colgate toothpaste.
I won't call out competitors, but we've had multiple moments. Local brands are quite big now in India, right? So a couple of brands you probably would know. In the last few years, they've done very well. We need to. The way to do it is that we have to stay on top of our game. So like naturals is a big thing. We need to make sure, we are offering products like in this case, we have active salt, we have Veit Swarna, Veit Shakti, etc. So, the consumer feels we need to go to more natural stuff, more Ayurveda stuff. Need to stay close to the consumer, develop products that they need, and we need to make sure the communication happens, products are good, pricing is reasonable, etc. So, that's the model. We've been in this country for more than 80 years. And, there is enough memory in the system on, how Indian consumers are. and satisfying the consumer is the way to do this, right? So if you feel you're moved away from that and not focusing on that piece, then the consumer will make you pay a price, right? So touch wood, we've been able to work that model, and so far it's worked for us.
Thank you, Mr. J. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Sudarshan, if you want to ask.
Yeah. Hi, Jacob. Good evening. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, Mr. Sudarshan, if you can start your video, then it will be more interactive.
So there is some signal drop down, so I thought being not on video will actually help listen properly. Is that fine?
Okay, Sudarshan, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Please.
Okay. So hi, Jacob. Just want to check with you, how does one manage our boss as we go up, and how do we manage the relationship with our boss, and and still retain our autonomy and sanity as well? Just want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm, unless you're really unlucky, right? Most bosses have the, they have the best interests of the organization at heart, right? So I know there would be a minority of bosses. So we will have to understand what are those priorities, right? So the organization priorities, the boss's priorities, right? And normally you will find they are kind of linked. So, we'll have to make, I'm assuming, it's the right boss. So we'll have to make the boss know the boss's priorities, make sure we are contributing it to it. Because, if we make the boss look good, will also be good for us. And now I'm not saying that in a wrong way as, bootlicking, etc. There are ways to communicate to the boss. If you do 80% is good, and then 20% is something that you struggle with while interacting. There are ways to communicate, right? So you talk on the 80% most of the time, and then talk about some of those other things which we could work, etc. So again, there's no one size fits all kind of an approach. We have to understand each boss is different, each human being is different, right? So we need to understand where that person is coming from. And there could be different issues people face, right? Sometimes, you do all the work and the boss takes all the credit, or the boss is not willing to project you, or the boss doesn't, favors somebody else. So each action like this, there is some background to that, right? And one has to find what is the trigger for obvious unfairness in this case, and see how you can address it. I'm not saying 100% of the time it can be addressed, but again, I feel most modern organizations do create an environment where you work well. But of course, if things are not going well at all, which I'm assuming is a very small majority, the last step would need to be HR. So most professional companies, the HR department can be your partner in a situation like this, where you can informally reach to them, and without them, mentioning you by name, etc. And they will get involved. They will try to give some feedback, etc. It's not that I've not seen unreasonable bosses in Colgate. So, but this is a system. It works between one-to-one interaction with the involvement of HR in worst case scenarios, etc. Right? So, and some companies have a hotline also, which could be managed by an independent team, where you would register. You don't trust the HR, for example. Okay, in some companies you might think, HR is close to my boss, so I'm not going to tell him. So there would be hotlines where you would register your apprehension, and we do have a hotline like that, which is independent, which is not in India. So in a worst case, people do call up and make those give those feedback, and it is addressed very professionally, I must say, and there's no retaliation that happens. So there are multiple ways to do this. Different organizations have different approaches. No single magic formula for this, unfortunately. Sudarshan.
Okay. Pinky, before going to another participants, there are certain questions in
Yeah,
chat box.
yeah,
Can you take
yeah,
that
yes.
first? Yeah, please.
Yes. How budgeting has evolved given the continuous changing environment?
Yeah, I mean, budgeting is one area that's seen the most dramatic change over the last 10 years, I would say, because remember, budget is not just about, putting some numbers into system and running budgets, right? Nowadays, the budget people have responsibility to make sure the numbers make sense. So, they need to understand what's happening outside in the market. So next year, for example, if somebody is budgeting e-com business to grow 5%, right? The budget team will not accept it, right? Because they know e-com grows at 50 to 100%. Most companies grow their e-com business 50 to 100%, right? So the budget team will be, these days, they read a lot, they travel, they go to different forums for understanding this kind of stuff. And, if the marketing or salesperson is trying to get a low budget, because finally you're appraised based on your budget, right? So if you get a low budget, you have a good year, right? So the budget person will push back and say you have to grow at least at the industry level for the budget, right? Which could be anywhere between 50 and 100%, right? So that's one area. The other one is technology. So there is a lot of data that's now easily crunchable. In the past, computing speeds were not good, so you couldn't crunch. So now you could look at historic data and do your own projection based on how trends are shaping up, what the budget should be for next year, etc. So that's another area we find the budget team, quite good at. So it's about forecasting, it's about budgeting for new businesses. It's about efficiency in spendings. So what we call ROI, right? As I said, companies spend hundreds of crores on trades, schemes, consumer schemes, identifying which ones work, which ones don't, culling the ones that doesn't work. And, like in our company, the budget team spends a lot of time understanding the Nielsen share numbers, how month on month market shares are progress. So when you run all these promotions or when you spend a lot of money on advertising, are you getting returns? Are you seeing share pickup? And they would quite often be challenging the marketing and sales team to get more efficiencies because of the way they are seeing the trend is not good, etc. So this is one area I've seen, at least in FMCG, the change has been most dramatic compared to many other areas.
Next question is, sir, how do we leverage ESG and sustainability as a business strategy? What should be the role of CFO here? If you can share some practical experience.
Yeah, so I'm right now heading a ESG task force in the company. So to role of CFO, as I mentioned, right, as you go up, you have to wear multiple hats, right? You can't be just be on the finance road, right? So I'm working with an external partner on developing an ESG document for Colgate, which should be out in the next couple of months. It's the first time we've done this. And why is ESG important for us? ESG is the right thing to do, right? We are leaving this planet to our children and the children's children, to future generations. We need to make sure, there's enough oxygen left to breathe while we leave this world, right? So it's the right thing to do. Absolutely, we all agree, right? But in the past, organizations have not been as involved. But what's now happening is, one is, many organizations are realizing time is run out. Right, we are a bit late already on this climate fight, so we need to do that. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is investors, right? Especially in publicly listed companies, investors are saying we won't invest in you if your ESG scores are not good, right? So that's the other piece of it. The third piece we are seeing is that when we go to the campuses to recruit, say, marketing people from the IIMs or ISB, etc., right? We're finding increasingly youngsters very curious to know what are we doing, what is this company doing on the ESG front. So about environment, about sustainability, about governance, etc. So are you ranking well? And we've got multiple people telling us that even for a slightly lesser salary, we will join a company which is ranking high on ESG. So for us, we always say companies are as good as the people who work in those companies, right? And if we are not attracting the brightest people, the future of the company is also not good, right? So we need to make sure we are on top of this. So in a way, organizations have a selfish vested interest also, in the sense that we are just trying to recruit youngsters who are getting more and more interested in this area. So you would be surprised, the new recruits, so many of them talk about ESG, and they're joining the company because we do well on ESG, etc. And so it's investors, it's new recruits, a part of employer branding. It's about doing the right things as a company, right? That's the least we owe to the planet also. Yeah. So I would say that. And as I said, it need not be that CFO should not get involved. As you go up the ladder, your understanding across areas is quite good. Many of us sit with the CEO, for example, and would match him word for word, action for action, right? So, this is a very interesting area, and some of you know that some of the best ESG work right now is being done by audit firms like KPMG, EY, PwC. These are, we're finding increasingly also chartered accountants getting into this area. Very new area, a lot of potential in consultancy and stuff. And, we are seeing some very good partnership happening between industry and the CA firms in this area.
Actually, sir, we are also planning to do a next our CFO forum on ESG topic only.
Oh, okay. That's good. Very timely.
So yeah, that's why. So next question is, the eB2B are taking higher margins from companies. Distributors are asking the same kind of margin from company. How to balance between distributor channel without affecting company profitability?
Yeah, so we, at least in our company, we make sure, the pricing is fair. We don't support one RE versus the other. So we make sure there is not a lot of scope for predatory pricing, so to say. So we have been very careful, and we've been able to manage it. But, the pricing is one, you need to be careful on that. So there are other things like, portfolio, for example. So, we have some products which are not widely distributed. Even distributors don't distribute as much. So for new products, new categories, which is not widely distributed, we can use eB2B to drive distribution. So that's another way to do it. Portfolio differentiation, I mentioned, you don't sell the same products in one channel and also the other channel. So there are multiple ways to make sure, the entire ecosystem functions in a way that is, beneficial for all the players. And, right now there's a lot of noise because these are new emerging channels. But as we've seen in the past, many years back, there used to be distributor versus direct trade, how you selling to them directly, what will we do? But they've still thrived and prospered, right? So, all this will find its place as we go along. So as new players or new retail environments open up, there would be some transition adjustments that will happen. But companies have to make sure all the partners in the distribution chain get a fair deal.
Okay.
Next question is, any use case for use of analytics or platform for corporate risk management audit perspective, AI, ML based?
Yeah, so I mentioned, right, we do a lot of technology stuff on the audit side. So we have, employed bots, which is, embedded onto a system which looks for unusual transactions. So it's like a real-time audit. In the past, right, audit used to be through statistical sampling, and you would pick a representative sample and try to draw inferences whether there is something wrong, you need to increase the sample size, etc. But with something like this, right, you are on always on mode, right? You're almost doing 100% of transaction audit, looking for unusual transactions, unusual deviations, etc. So that's one good example of how technology is being leveraged to give assurance on controls in the company.
Next question is, in consideration of external dynamic environment, what kind of approach to be adopted to safeguard and sustain the profit margin? Please advise.
Yeah, so I mean, sustainable, profitable growth is an objective of virtually every company who operates, right? So the thing is to look from both sides. What is the cost increases? What do you need to cover it? How much pricing can be taken based on what we've seen in the past on demand elasticity, because volumes could be impacted. So what's the right level of pricing? And sometimes, you need to spread it over a few periods, could be a few quarters or even multiple years, the entire coverage, because commodity cycles turn, right? Commodity cycles don't stay in one direction for a long time. It turns around with a lag. So sometimes you find oil prices going from, say, currently $105 Brent to, say, 70, 80. So so you calibrate pricing slowly while some of the cost increases come down, pricing gradually goes up, and you calibrate. So over time, you develop a little bit of understanding of how all these things play with each other, right? The cost increases, what consumer reaction is, what's the volume impact, etc. And you work off a model. Some risks have to be taken, inevitable in business, but you should be willing to course correct. If you see, if you believe that what you've done is created an impact which is not desirable, you need to look to course correct also.
Next question is, which platform, can you please share the name of the platform being used?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't call out specific platforms, but there are multiple ones out there in the market. So I don't want to be seen to be endorsing a particular one.
Okay. Mr. Sudarshan, do you want to ask any question? No, I think.
Yeah, one minute. So I was waiting for others to take their turn. Thanks for giving me a chance once again. So I want to know to what extent the CFO should take responsibility for financial performance of the organization, because ultimately it's a collective, it's a team effort, a team game. But still, when it comes to financial performance and financial accountability, the buck stops with the CFO. So I just want your views on how does one manage this at an organizational level.
Yeah, so see, finally, I think the CEO is the one responsible for the company, because finally companies exist for delivering results, right? And results are almost always a big chunk is the financials, right? So increasingly you will find people are looking for CEOs with P&L management skills. So if you look at all the big CEO recruitment ads, you will find a requirement that should have experience managing P&Ls, right? So that's the essential skills for CEOs. So, but the CFO is a close second, yeah. In the sense that in an organization, quite often we say CFOs are a close number 2, right, to the CEO. So kind of joined at the hips, and that partnership, that chemistry between the CEO and CFO is quite critical. So if they don't get along well, right, the organization is in trouble. So the CFO can see, right, has a better understanding of numbers, quite often can see into the future how demand is shaping up, how costs are shaping up, how competition is shaping up, and we have a good idea of what it could be, and this gets fed into the system. But the CEO and CFO will have a lot of one-to-one sessions where you will keep brainstorming, etc. Right? So yes, this accountability is joint across the team, but more specifically, I'll say the CFO and the CEO are the ones responsible, with the CFO having the full responsibility of making sure, we are putting it out there, what's the impact, we are putting the proposals there, what we can do, and making sure, the CEO is on board, and, those interactions keep happening. So remember, at the top, everybody is a finance. I mean, even my marketing guy is quite good at finance. My sales guy is really good at finance, because, all of them are looking to be, CEOs, right? So, everybody kind of tries to pitch in, and there's a good understanding that this is our reason for existence, and this is what we are going to do together to deliver it. So, there is a lot of this give and take that keeps happening. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. Next question is, what was the key driver for you to take on the journey and rise up the ladder? Sir, your journey, we want to hear.
Yeah. So I was, I would say, quite curious initially itself. So, when I did 2 years of my articles, and then, I was keen to see what industry looks like. So I joined a foreign bank for a year, and I was fascinated because it was, the top foreign bank at that stage, the most technology savvy bank. And work with, I used to meet people who used to come in interviews in business, India, etc. So, and I liked how industry worked, how people are given objectives, goals, how they collectively work towards it. So, that kind of inspired me to start my journey. And then I would say I was very curious starting in industry. So when I came to, and I mean, the bigger companies offer very excellent training, I must say. So when I joined Colgate, I was told in my induction that, no point in spending too much time in your initial days just on the finance piece. You need to understand a lot more. So, can you go and spend 2 hours with a scientist and ask him, how do you make toothpaste? What products go into toothpaste? And, what are the things that go into a toothpaste? So, I spent 2 hours. He was a bit not sure why I was spending time with him, because, there's no way I would become a scientist, right? So he told me that, for example, the foaming in toothpaste comes from a material called SLS. That's what you add to the product, so to get foaming. So he told me that, this comes from palm oil, and palm oil, Indonesia and Malaysia are the big producers, etc. So, example of that. Then there is some other things like, Whiskerin, which is a gum or a binder which keeps all the ingredients together, which is found at the bottom of the sea. So I myself was not sure why I went to, talk to him. But when he told me all that, I made notes. But today, when I sit, right, when I see on the business news that palm oil prices are going up in Malaysia, immediately I tell the organization that, we will see SLS prices going up in the next, it comes with a lag of 3 months to 6 months. And so we need to be prepared for that cost increase, etc. Similarly, packaging material, the tubes, how they made, it's made from resin, and what all goes into that. There's some aluminum that goes in. And so, when aluminum prices go up, tube prices will go up. So, all these linkages I was able to make much later in life. So I was, curious, but at the same time, I was lucky that, the organization had the right training stuff that, put me on different directions. So I spent a week on the sales force, with meeting wholesalers and all, just observing how sales happen. So when I'm sitting at my desk, I'm not just speculating what must be happening, because I've got first-hand experience, right? And then I was told to go to all the factories, spend some time understanding how production happens, what are those key drivers in that process, and so on and so forth, right? So a combination of curiosity and also, the exposure that, organization, at least my organization gave me, put me on the track to think about bigger things and, going up to the next level, etc. And of course, there's I mentioned earlier, we should work in an organization for at least a few years, so that we don't not change organizations every few years for a little bit more money. Make sure you are learning. You are smarter this year than you were in the past, and you will not regret it, right? When your time comes, you will find you will move much faster than all the others, because you have so much of knowledge and so much of understanding of the business operations, right? So that's the way I went up. And of course, definitely there is always some bit of luck, right? You can do everything right, but you might be very bad luck, right? You're in a wrong industry, or for example, somebody was telling me, if you join Google with an average person, joining Google 20 years back has done much better in life than a most brilliant guy joining, say, Kodak, right? Because the industry collapsed, right? Or Xerox, for example, right? So those industries were impacted. So some of it is luck, just being in the right industry also, right? That's something that you can't always control. But bearing that, there's a lot that's in our own hands.
Rightly said, that for linkage and for to get the correct CFO for role, we should know the basic things also in our organization. Like in our audit industry, if we are sending our people for audit, we are asking them first know the internal control of the company, first know the production of the company, how they are producing and what the internal control and internal system is there. Then only you can do the audit.
Correct. Correct. No, I mean, I was talking to a CFO of another big company. So he was saying they are in the business of manufacturing soap. So the internal audit team sits on a truck and moves from like a few hours to see where it stops. What are the handoffs that happen, and what are the risks that could be there on the way. So nothing like getting your hands dirty, right? Just sitting and in the air-conditioned office and reading manuals may not be always right? So I'm hearing a lot of daredevil stories almost about how internal auditors, right? Mostly chartered accountants, right? They are making it interesting, right? They are, in the middle of everything. So not just sitting and working on the computer.
Yeah, sure. Next question is, what can CA do to upskill and be more involved in market data analysis and assist business to achieve its goal?
Yeah, so so part of it will be the organization. There will be an ecosystem in the organization, right? That everybody has to do this 20 things for you to progress, etc. But a lot of it will be, they say, right? You can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink, right? So you will have to. There has to be a lot of self-initiative, right? There has to be that urge to do more. So if your job requires to do 10 things, can you do another 2 things? Spend a bit more time learning stuff, right? And going beyond that, right? So you look at all the leaders that are there today. You will find in their growing up years in the corporate hierarchy, they would have really gone beyond what was required of the job, right? So I would say a lot of it is in our hands, and barring things like bad luck. Sometimes I know luck plays a part, but those things you can't control. But a lot of stuff is within the hands of the individual themselves, right? As I said, network, talk to people, read. It's so easy to access information now, right? In the internet, a lot of sites are free. You can read international news. You can read countries that are growing fast, because for example, there are countries in Asia who are ahead of us. What's happening in those countries will come to India in, say, a few years time, right? So be curious how others are responding, and there will be an impact for India also for this industry, etc. So I would say the self-initiative is a massive thing here. I would encourage everybody to take that initiative to learn, be curious. And if you think you're not learning, if your organization is not giving opportunities, then you may need to want to look at opportunities, because you obviously don't want to waste your time too much also, right? In the initial years at least.
Mr. Girdhar want to ask some question. Girdhar?
Yep. Hello, Mr. Jacob. Good evening.
Thank you.
Just wanted to know, see, most of your vendors would be MSMEs, right? I mean, you'll have MSMEs for your raw material procurement, printing, packaging, all sorts of needs. So just wanted to know, is there any contribution from Colgate in ensuring that your vendors are financially literate, as in most of them don't have a basic finance team in place? I mean, they might have some sort of an accounting, but they don't have any finance team in place, and so that it's a win-win, right? I mean, so that they don't go under, especially with black swan events like COVID coming through. You find that their earlier financial mismanagement, pushes them into closure ultimately. So is there anything that Colgate is doing in this particular regard?
Yeah, so we work with suppliers across, right? We have a lot of large suppliers, some suppliers as big as us. So, and then we have a lot of MSMEs. So, with suppliers, it's a partnership thing, because, we know if there is a disruption, it's not that they will be shut, we will also be impacted badly if material supplies. And so we have teams that, help, the suppliers we work on, who work with us, right? We help them on the compliance side, we help them risk management, global best practices we send to the, share with them. We even share, if we know, for example, this country, the supplier's supplier, right? Whether we can introduce them. So if the supplier is buying some input for themselves, whether we can direct them to more efficient sources, so that, they are very competitive. We also work with suppliers to develop, like some material, for example, we more than 99% of our products are made in India. And it was less till a few years back, but we work with suppliers, expose them to technology, expose them to good manufacturing practices, quality standards. So, all this international level of internationally acceptable level of manufacturing practices, right? We expose it to them, and we also provide people who will help them handhold them through that. So on the technology side, we do provide a lot of support. On the financial side, one is we make sure we pay them on time. So you can talk to any of our suppliers; they will definitely be paid on time. And if there are financial crises with them, we sit with them and we talk to them and see how we can tide through them. Of course, it helps that we are a cash-rich company, so we have a bit more flexibility. But we make sure we support them in every which way. And through COVID, I myself sat on many calls with our suppliers to make sure one is their people were okay, they were getting support in terms of the support required. If anybody was affected, their people were affected. We were working our schedules with them, making sure we were all aligned together. So with the manufacturing head, I spent a lot of time with suppliers also, understanding all their difficulties, and we got to a good place, and it was a win-win for us. As I said, we got uninterrupted supplies, and they were able to tide through the crisis. So we don't look at, our approach is not to squeeze suppliers to the extent possible and let them leave them to their mercy, right, and let them survive. We believe they need to do well also for us to do well, and our approach is a bit more of a partnership kind of a thing than a cutthroat squeezing everything you can kind of an approach.
We have Mr. Biren with us. Mr. Biren, if you throw some lights or some input on this topic, please share.
First of all, let me say hi to everybody. I'm in San Francisco, USA, and I got this invite a few days ago, and I took the opportunity to say hi to the community and my fellow colleagues. So I'm a chartered accountant from 89 batch and moved to the US in 2000. worked through many bigger hedge fund industries. I was a CFO and a COO for Nico Asset Management, now currently a quant hedge fund in San Francisco, which is called Numerai, artificial intelligence based. And I'm a CFO, CCO, and head of investor relationships. So as Jacob mentioned, he threw a very key part of diverger of the mindset. We are not just the finance individuals. We are the core backbone of the whole business. So it's just the mindset we have to change. You have to make sure that you are the entrepreneur mindset. You have to think stepping into the shoes of the management, your CEO, your MDs, your head of other departments. You have to interact with them. You have to know how they work, how the company works. It's not just like, putting the balance sheet end together. It's not the part of the CFOs. And if you want to climb the ladder, I encounter like people here in US always say that there's a racism, this and that. I have managed teams as I has 50 people and all white people under me, all like local CPAs. And I proudly say that I refuse to do my CPA because I'm a chartered accountant from India. So that's how it works. Like, you have to believe in yourself. You have to love the people around you. You have to be inclusive. You have to know their need. There is nothing written on your forehead that you are this expert. You have to prove yourself by your action. And everything rest is easy. Like, just be inclusive, be receptive of new ideas, because initially when I came to US, I was barely able to speak fluent English like in US, right? Like back in 2000, like, if I call somebody for the recruitment or something, they say something blah, 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 and I just hang up the phone. So that how it works. But initially, like, I took a small telemarketing job that enabled me to learn English and sell myself. So all we are doing here actually is you have to sell yourself, your skills, your ability. And entrepreneurship is the key to all the success, as Jacob said, like, you have to be inclusive. Well said, Jacob. And I'm really proud to see our CA community grow all across the world right now. Like, I have many friends here who are also at this level of my junction. And I'm a extremely well good friend with the Nilesh Shah. If you guys know, he's MD from Kotak. He's on the TV like on and off every week or analysis something. In fact, he's coming to my home on Monday and Tuesday. He's here in San Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Biren. Quite inspiring your journey. So I'm sure it'll inspire a lot of youngsters in the group. So we have a lot of other chartered account, like, the Hindustan Lever CEO is a chartered accountant also, right? So, there are a lot of examples of people who really gone on to great heights, right? But as Biren said, we need to have that business mentality. We need to be able to join the dots, and we are responsible for our careers, right?
Yeah.
Can't expect it'll be handed on a platter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Biren.
Inclusiveness is must. You have to lend your hand first. Nobody is going to lend their hand first, no matter what. Like, you'll be extremely, extremely lucky if somebody lends your hand first. So you have to be receptive. That's all I can say. And that helped me to climb the ladder really, really quick in my career. So if I can do, anybody can do.
Thank you, Biren.
Yeah. So I shared my contact info, etc., with the team as well. So feel free to chat with me, like, if you need any guidance or if you plan to work for international organizations or something. I'm inviting all the team members. And Jacob, please be in touch. It's an honor to,
Same here. Same
okay.
Here.
All right. Thank you, Pinky.
Thank you. So anyone having any questions, we can take it up before winding up. Sudarshan, do you want to speak? Hello.
Or anyone can, if they want to share their idea, their experience, platform is open for all, because it's a CFO forum. It's not one-way traffic.
Yeah.
So
it'll be good if others can share good practices.
August, just want to know if you have any plans writing a book about your career journey so far?
Not at this moment, but I'll let you know in case I decide.
Give me one paragraph in your book, Jacob.
No, I think maybe you should go first, Biren, and I should write a paragraph.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's been an amazing journey.
Hello,
Hi,
Mr. Jacob. Sorry, hi. Just wanted to thank you. You are naturally, but the organization, because a little bit of the wealth I have made is thanks to Colgate. Investing very early in multiple bonuses. Thank you very much. That's it. Just, of course, I've not made the amount of money I would have liked to,